It's Monday on Your View. Welcome to the show. I am Mariah Afolabi Brown. As always, I have the ladies with me. Nima Akashat Zibiri.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you.
Hi.
I'm very fine.
You sleep well today.
Your voice.
I wish it was a working weekend, so I had Diani Baba's orders. So I've been doing their memorial Ramadan charity for their parents for a while now. And I had to do it again. 10 whole bags of rice, so I still sell rice. I must shout out to them, and I wish, I've seen a sample I can replicate. All the children agree on that this must be done at the parents' mosque, and they will give out food stuff to all the people living around and in the mosque. So I know the place at Tijaraba, I was able to go there and do the delivery. I saw them reciting and all of that. That's how memorials are done in Islam. It's not the Ifefe party and all of that, really not the dead. And I've seen that they are very strong Muslims that know and understand what Islam is. So I shout out to you, sirs, and all the mas in the family. Thank you so much for patronizing. Okay. But in the spirit of Ramadan, I'll be drinking this morning.
We know why.
And I'm exempted.
We know why.
We understand.
No, I'm deliberately drinking. Usually when I am not fasting, I don't do it on the show. But I've seen that we need to really inform. Because they need to ease down this whole wahala. If someone is not fasting, person that are exempted for old age, sick illness, or on their period, or breastfeeding. And the exceptions are there.
I know that.
They should be louder than... why are you eating my face and all of that?
The thing is that because we get a lot of comments, why is Nima having a cup? Why is the cup of
There are days when I'm fasting and it's not Ramadan. I'm actually paying back.
Let me say hello to Ramadan.
I'm fine. Self-love, sis. Yes, I think that's part of the message. Yes. So we're now week 2 of our self-love challenge for Lifestyle with ML. And today is you're meant to stand in front of the mirror and look at yourself and say positive things about yourself. That is what you're meant to do today. Just stand in the mirror and look at you and just say something good. Look at your eyes. Like Nima will always say, I have really beautiful brown eyes.
My dad
Obiadilu will say, I'm just a whole ball of finance. Anyway, Mariah is her beautiful shape, which she never talks about. Her lovely smile, which she never speaks about. Just look in the mirror and just say positive things only about yourself.
She hides those hips.
Anyways, people influence me because I went to go and do pedicure.
I
did nails.
She looks so pretty.
Just trying to be all this challenge. Self-love. So Mariam is influencing some of us. Baby steps. I don't do too fast. I take my steps.
And that's good.
And it's good.
Hiding Obiadilu.
Amazing.
Hey, conglomerate. International. Exporter, importer, production, manufacturer. How you doing?
I'm doing great. So on Saturday, I had to sit for about 9 hours to do my assignment.
Wow.
And because I needed to, I had 3 essays that was due for submission, and I just finished one. But what was, what stood out for me was the topic I was working on, which was special needs education in schools. And I realized that Nigeria has some of the policies, but there is no implementation.
Right.
There is no form of evaluation. And while we are complaining on one hand that we do not have, we are not giving our public school students quality education. We have physically challenged, mentally challenged children who may not even be getting anything at all. I was so worried that there was no law backing it up. So I've decided to take up that project as well as part of Nurturing the Nurturer. After this particular one, I will go to primary schools. Let me see if they have teachers on special needs education. Let's see how we can train them, because there's a lack of personnel in that regard.
And I agree with you, because you see, one of the frustrations we have is that everybody wants to support, but you don't know the areas of need.
Yes.
So you come up that you donate English books, you donate mathematics, literacy books, you donate, but there are needs, special needs. It's a major set that nobody's really doing anything. So if you're an NGO, if you're an international body that you really want to support basic education, that's an area that there's a real need, where they need support in teacher training, how to manage special needs kids, and how to ensure that they are learning at their own pace.
Yes,
and
inclusive education,
Yeah, good job. But don't overstretch yourself.
No. It's part of Nurturing the Nurturer. Yeah, it's part of it. So just add that. Yeah.
And you, sweetheart?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Over the weekend I went to school. My dissertation is due in a few months. Father, help me. Holy Spirit, send me help from everywhere. I really need to use at least an hour a day to work on it. Because honestly, I haven't started, and that's
Please start so it doesn't pile up.
Yeah, so I'm going to quickly do that. But you know what? Hey, I like the ride. I'm enjoying the ride. You know, we'll see how that goes. Okay, let's go on a break. When we come back, we go through the front pages of the papers. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Okay, we're going to start with The Nation. Governor, $2.1 billion refund will kill state economy. 6 die in Ekiti cult clash. Ondo to auction seized cows. Picture story here. Suspects who excreted cocaine and heroin. Defense minister to troops. Don't be afraid of bullets. 12 die, 50 houses razed in Benue tanker fire. Arik Air to resume Lagos-Kano route. And disquiet in Lautech over VC's sack. Okay, let's start with the major headline. 2.4 billion, yeah.
So, you know, the CBN had to assist the states with about 2.1 billion naira over a period of time. The governor just decided now to recover this money from the federal allocation before it paid to them. And the governor decided to scream out saying that this will scatter what's the name of balance, scatter everything. Because as soon as that is removed, they cannot afford to pay salaries, workers will start to go on strike, things will start to go upside down, things will get out of hand. That, you know, and some governors from PDP are saying this is ridiculous. This is because our person spoke up about, you know, the printed money and, you know. Oh, my mic.
Okay. All right,
okay, so I have the picture story.
Picture story, yeah, go ahead.
Yes, so NDLEA is doing its job. And yet again, on the 10th of April, they are giving us a report. On the 10th of April, they did a screening of passengers who were on this Ethiopian flight going to Italy at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport. And this person, Chukudi Destiny, was scanned, and he was found to have ingested drugs, and he was put under observation. He excreted 92 pellets of heroin,
Wow.
which weighed about 1,300 kilograms. Then on the 12th of April, NDLEA screened this. They went to the Sako shed, import shed. So that's the South African import shed. That's consignment that leaves to South Africa and from South Africa. And they did like a sting operation and found that drugs had been packaged in cornflakes cartons. That was so neatly done, but they caught them. It came to about 11,550 kg of heroin, and 4 clearing agents were arrested in that case.
Right.
On the 16th of April as well, another trafficker, Chibuzo Ezekiel, arrived from Brazil, and he also ingested cocaine, 99 wraps. He excreted.
Oh, my Lord.
I mean,
see,
you know,
it's like every single day we get something on drugs.
But you know, they excrete this thing and then they sell it to people. So
They
people
wash
are
it
so
now.
It's padded now, it's packaged.
packaged.
It's packaged into capsules.
So it came out from someone's bum with
That's a different matter. Let's take a one more story.
Yeah, so the defense minister, Bashir Magashi, went on a morale-boosting visit to the troops in Maiduguri, and then he was telling them that they should be more daring and should not be afraid of the bullets. That even if, you know, their mindset is most important when they are, you know, confronting insurgency. And even if they do not go out there to fight, the bullet can actually meet them at home. So if it's your destiny for the bullet to meet you at home or not, if it's not your destiny, bullets will not meet you.
Yes. I don't
but
get
if you're not meant to die, you know
that. You're not meant to die. If it's not your time, it's not your time. But you should just be bold to face insurgency. And remember that what you're doing is securing the lives of your citizens. He also said that they are working on, you know, helping to get a better welfare package for the troops. And mentioned that they had arrested somebody, I want to get the person's name, Modu Ari, who has been supplying information to Boko Haram terrorists. He's under investigations, and they're trying to also use him to get all the locals who give information to the insurgents.
Okay, moving on now to the Punch. Experts fault CBN governor. NESG says 60 billion naira printing not sustainable. Amoteco arrests herders, 250 cows, over 300-hectare farm destruction. About to wed 4 others killed as bus plunges into Ondo River.
Sad.
NDLEA seizes 834 kilograms of drugs traffickers excrete, 191 wraps. Insurance didn't cover Lagos buses burnt during the #EndSARS, says Sanwo-Olu. And the military to embark on massive recruitment, says Minister. And pro-Taliban comments, sack Pantamina, PDP CSO tells Buhari. Okay, let's start with the major headlines. Okay. So I think, as we all know, the drama that happened when the governor of Edo State was saying that the CBN prints about 60 billion naira cash to give out to the governors, and the CBN has since come out to say that what they do is lend, and they lend these to the governors. But the problem is that the governors are not using it to develop the economies. It's actually using it to pay salaries. So various experts have actually responded, and I think Patutomi and a few others have said, especially Patutomi was very specific, saying that you can't compare the printing of naira in Nigeria in other climes, because other climes are not dealing with kind of inflation that we're doing, that we're having a hyperinflation. So the UK, for example, printed X amount of millions of pounds into the economy because their inflation is about 2%.
Wow.
We are dealing with almost 20%.
Yeah.
So you cannot even compare us in any way. But at the same time, NESG has said that it is not sustainable to continue to print and pay salaries. If you print to develop infrastructure, it's a whole different ballgame, but we're using it to pay salaries, and that's a problem with consuming. Okay, another story in Punch.
Yes, I got so
yes,
the Amotekun, the Ondo State chapter, have arrested 2 herders, 250 cows, for destroying over 300 hectares of farmland. So they destroyed crops as well, maize, corn. Maize is corn, plantain, cocoyam, and things like that. So these particular farmers had called the security operatives who came, and they found that cows had come into the into the farms, destroyed it. The farmers said that this has been ongoing for 5 years. Anyway, luckily for them, they apprehended 2 of the herders. They said the herders were actually fighting the security operatives, but eventually they overpowered them. The rest ran away. They got 2 of them, and they're saying henceforth it's not about compensation anymore. They'll take them to court. The cows will then be auctioned. Mieti Allah, the association, have said that they're going to, they're sitting down with them, they're going to compensate. They've also drawn up an agreement and signed that they will no longer destroy farmlands and things like that. So I think it's important the court plays, the prosecution.
Yes, was on the news yesterday talking about, the burnt buses and the situation of Lagos. He mentioned that the buses were not insured for the kind of disaster that he suffered during the #EndSARS, or that they were going to replace the buses in response to Lagos traffic and transportation issues. And also they are looking at expanding the waterway transport system by acquiring more boats that will carry 50 to 30 to 40 seater capacity.
So I watched that interview, and I think what he said was quite profound. He said that for the waterways, they've made their enabling environment. They provided the enabling environment for private sector to come in, bring in the cars and the buses and all that to help support the motorways, and they're bringing in 400 taxis to help support. I did 400 because of the buses. I think it's the buses to swap with the downforce we have right now. So they're going to use they're going to retain the drivers that we have, and they're going to swap it and take out the old ones. And then they also to talk about the rail lines, the red and blue line. He said quite a bit of that interview. And it's interesting to know that quite a lot of roads have also been constructed in Lagos State, and they are going across to the west, east, and central Lagos. And they started with Lalimosho. And he mentioned about 277 roads or so that have been built so far. So, Governor Sanwo-Olu, keep working. Moving on now to Daily Sun. Bloody day. 18-seater bus plunges into river in Ondo. Scores feared dead as fuel tanker explodes in Benue. 2023 presidency, Southeast getting support from North-South, says Eziefe. Border closure, Nigeria loses 1.3 trillion to fuel smugglers. PDP governors tackle APC over Obaseki. Shunned promoters of breakup, FG tells Nigerians, and FG promises more personnel, better equipment to fight Boko Haram. Okay, which story are we taking here?
The major headline?
Yes, please, Bloody Day.
So Bloody Day yesterday, in one in Ondo and the other in Benue. So the one for Ondo was a Toyota vehicle plunged into, lost the driver, according to the eyewitnesses, lost, his, what's it called? He lost him, he swerved somehow, and he plunged into the river, and about 5 persons died. Now, one of the persons who lost someone was a lady who just got married at the registry in Lagos, and they were heading to, by the next weekend, to have their proper traditional ceremony, and then the husband died, but she survived. So they had taken the people who have died to the morgues, and the others who have survived. There's still the divers are still there trying to rescue more people. As at the time the story was reported, just 5 persons had died. Then in Benue State, they had a fire accident. A tanker that was, conveying fuel caught fire and then destroyed everything around, houses, shops, vehicles. And then they had a problem because the locals were trying to use their manual methods to fetch water and try to put out the fire. They had reached out to a fire service an hour away, and they said they didn't have any, their truck was bad, so they couldn't bring water to quench the fire. And then they had complained to, I think, SEMA and NIMA to come and do something about it. So there are no fire service stations around that vicinity that the incident happened.
All right, let's go on a quick break. When we come back, we'll continue with the listen. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. We're still reviewing Daily Sun. Was there any other story?
Yeah, so it's been reported that Nigeria, during the border closure, lost about 1.3 trillion naira. We remember, of course, for 16 months, the borders were closed. And what that did, many people say it grounded economic activities around the border towns. And also, there was an increase in illegal activity, smuggling of food, stuff, and petroleum products. And so in that time, we lost so much money. And it says that most of the West African countries actually get their petroleum products from Nigeria. So petroleum products in other West African countries are not subsidized. So where we're selling petroleum products for petrol PMS for 160, 165 per liter, in countries like Togo, it's sold for 295 naira, in Cameroon 435, in some countries as high as 500 naira per liter. So it is something that this illegality seems to be, it makes sense for them, and it seems that it's being pushed because they will buy it much cheaper here in Nigeria and sell it even way, way higher in the neighboring countries. And of course, this has affected, I think, revenue that comes to us.
The subsidy has been removed. But Nigerians don't allow it. They say they can't afford it.
Yeah, so it opened my eyes to, if all the other neighboring countries are selling at that price, they are not subsidized, maybe Nigerians should think about how we can do that in the way that it will affect us positively.
Please now, but the Labour will now come out and say, no, you cannot remove subsidy. So is that back and forth that we're going to do for the next 10 years?
Those countries don't produce.
Okay. That's
Most people don't have crude oil, so I guess that's what Nigeria
kind of wants.
People afford it.
Can they afford it? Because in the Togo,
in Niger, in Togo, they are paying much higher.
If you compare us and them, look at them.
You don't know. You haven't lived
GDP
there.
growth. I have been there.
It's a more senior climb, though.
That's what I'm saying.
Moving on to another topic, another subject, a story in Daily Sun. The Minister of Culture and Information was saying that we should shun those who are asking for breaking up of the country, because the issues that we're dealing with, which is headers, farmers clash, IPOB, and all that, are things that are not new. They've been there for decades, and we've been managing them all this while. That those who are asking for secession are those they are trying to break up the country, that we should totally ignore and shun them, because the truth is these are issues that we can resolve with the right parties coming to the table, and we should not give them the attention that they're seeking. Moving on now to Vanguard. Alleged printing of 60 billion naira. We talked about that. Let's find a story we've not taken. Insecurity. World Igbo Congress rejects Ibubiagu, asks Southeast governors to fortify ESN. Banks lending to private sector up to 14% to 30.7 trillion. Apapa gridlock. NPA wants more enforcement personnel on Tinkan Mile 2 route. And invite Pantamin for questioning now PDP charges DSS. Okay, which story are we taking?
MPA quickly. So MPA. The managing director of the MPA, Adiza Bala Usman, visited and inspected works going on between the Mautu and Tinkan Island area of the Apapa Expressway. And during that inspection, she called on the Lagos State Traffic Management and Enforcement Team to please deploy more security officers to ensure that they help in the decongestion of the area from parked trucks and all of that, saying that the e-call-up, yes, had a little setback, but it's been revived and things will work if there's proper enforcement. I want to disagree slightly that these are the same officers that come there and make money from that. So what we should be looking at is the level of corruption among these law enforcement agents who are supposed to decongest the trucks and investigate, and then make an example of 2-3 of them, so that we can have a proper system. Sure. Because they come there and it's almost like a recycling of system. I drive through there and I see what happens. I think that's what it means.
Okay, and World Igbo Congress, yes, go ahead. Yes, have rejected the Southeast Governors Formation of Ibubeago, saying that they are supposed to, they want them to support the Eastern Security Network, that they should forget about what they are saying, but the Ibubeago is more like a duplication of what the Eastern Security Network is already doing. And because it's a regional problem, an Igbo problem, they should have an Igbo solution. That the meetings that the Southeast governors had the meetings with other tribes. They mentioned the Fulani tribe as well as people who have been responsible for all the attacks happening in the East. So you cannot have, it's more like putting a squirrel in a bag with the corn at the same time. So it's not going to work. The Igbo people are responsible for taking care of their own people and protecting the lives and properties of their people. So they should look into that. IPOB, on the other hand, is saying that the Ohanese and Igbo and some traditional rulers are compiling their names to submit to the federal government so that the military can come in and attack them. And they are appealing that this is not what they need, more like a conspiracy theory.
Okay, the Congress, let me quickly just say what I think on this story. The World Igbo Congress are majorly people in diaspora. Yeah. And I would expect that when they make comments like this, they should trust their leaders. If they think that their leaders do not understand leadership, it's a different matter. But things must be done legally. Do you understand? The ESN, they must have legal basis for whatever they do.
Okay. Well, the story I thought was interesting that I forgot to mention, the prepaid meters. So according to the story, they said that, if you recall, April was the deadline for us to have about 1 million households metered. And they had, if you recall, there was the National Mass Metering Program, NMMP, which was supposed to be engaging indigenous meter assemblers or producers to help distribute these meters to Nigerians. And so far, they've only been able to do 210,000. So they have an outstanding of 79,000 meters to Nigerians. Remember, we've been saying that we didn't want them for the meters to be cheaper. Use local manufacturers. Don't import them. Let them be affordable. They've done that now. They've engaged us, Nigerians, and yet we've not been able to meet the deadline of 1 million meters by the April 2021. That's part of the issue that we're having.
Whose fault is that?
Well, that's debatable. So that's definitely debatable. But that's what the report say, that they cannot meet the 1 million mark, and I guess it goes
How
to.
many can
So when you keep shouting that we've not, I'm not trying to hold brief for the government, I would never do that. That they've not given us, we don't have meters, it's not the government now. They have actually told private sectors to put together, and unfortunately they have not met the mark. Moving on now to Daily Trust. Dozens arrested in nationwide crackdown, that's terrorism financing. The exclusive story from Daily Trust. 6 dead, others missing at 18-seater bus plunges into Ondo River. Media frenzy over Buhari's health. Really? What happened to Buhari's health? I didn't read that story.
I read the story.
Okay, which story are we going with?
Let's go with the Buhari.
Yes, what happened to our president?
Yeah, so they said there was a media frenzy yesterday about the state of his health. You know, he returned last Thursday from the UK, but then they had attempts have been made to reach the Garba Shehu to make a comment on it, but so far he hasn't said anything, has declined making any comments. But sources close to the president are speculating that he's not feeling really well. That's just where the story is at the moment.
Following the Daily Trust, that's major headline now. The Daily Trust
exclusive report, story, yeah.
Yes, on five Nigerians jailed in Dubai, in United Arab Emirates, over financing of terrorism. The Nigerian agencies have gone to work, and we have dozens from BDCs and all of that who are linked, sort of linked to these 5 persons that have been hunted now and arrested. These agencies include the Defense Intelligence Agency, the Department of State Services, the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit,
operators,
all of them. So they are basically, according to the reports, seriously tracing all of those arrested and their finances to these people in Nigeria, and they're being taken out now for investigation.
Okay.
And we're trying to.
All right, let's move
really
on to that
help
story.
us in the
Yes,
fight.
I think
one story.
one story. Owners abandoned houses under construction, and this has to do with prices of cement out there. And they said that between 2015 and 2021, cement has risen from 1,600 to 4,200, as well as prices for steel. And so there's a standard quality steel that you should use for your buildings, and people who are unable to afford that do not build houses that are, durable, strong houses. They are cutting corners and cutting costs in different ways. So that's one more thing that Nigerians are talking about.
Right. We have to run, but let me just finally take The Guardian. Hurdles for air travelers as nation okays vaccine passports. Who has that story, please?
Yes, I have the story. So it's now becoming like a global agenda and a form of subtle discrimination that if you do not have your COVID vaccine, they call it passports, but we have the certificate, that's the green card, you may likely not be able to travel. Now, a lot of countries are beginning to adopt that and give the policies because they need to, summer is fast approaching and the aviation sector needs to regain its resources and grow its economy, which has been affected largely by the COVID-19. So, but the problem now is so there's going to be a discrimination between the very rich countries and the poor countries. A lot of citizens from the poor countries do not even have access to the vaccines. Nigeria, out of 200 million people, we have vaccinated about just 1 million people. And if you now make this a law that for you to travel, you must have your vaccine passport, is going to, widen the gap between the poor and the rich countries.
Okay, that's all we can take on Front Page Review. When we come back, we'll move on to our hot topic of the day. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. So, this morning, our hot topic is talking about how we can discuss the issues African, the pageantry we put around funerals. And we're going to be comparing and contrasting the burial of the Duke of Edinburgh and the burials of other dignitaries we've seen in our country. So over the weekend, as many of you know, Queen Elizabeth and close members of the royal family bid a final farewell to Prince Philip at the funeral restricted by coronavirus rules. The ceremony was watched by millions around the world, with the public urged to stay away because of the pandemic. So we were told that there were about 30 people that were allowed. Even the Queen sat alone on the bleachers in the church. Quite a number of other people couldn't show up. Even the Prime Minister didn't show up at this event because of the strict adherence to the COVID rules. And we're looking at, we're juxtaposing that with burials we've seen in Nigeria. I don't want to go outside Nigeria, where we had the death of Abba Kyari. We had the death of Buruji Kashamu, the late Buruji Kashamu, and others, where these are dignitaries. But because of the caliber of who had passed on, we felt it was important to just bring the whole village and all the well-wishers, because for them it was unfathomable where you bury somebody like that and I won't be there. How can you bury that kind of a big person and I will not show up? I have to be there now. So let us discuss amongst ourselves and understand, why do we do things this way? Is it just our culture? Should we respect that that's who we are as a people? Or should we say, no, let's borrow a leaf from these people, from these colonizers? Are there good things around this, or should we just
be ourselves?
Be ourselves.
So I think culture is a way of life of a people. And we've realized that Africans, let me use Nigerians now because we're focusing on ourselves, are naturally flamboyant. We are not really modest with the way we do our things, even if it's a child naming ceremony of the 8 days, even if it's our wedding ceremonies, whatever it is that we do, we, shroud it in a lot of flamboyance because that's who we are, that's how we are. And some Africans, so I've been to a few other African countries, and they look at us like Nigerians and say, you people are pretty loud. You are loud. That's just who you are. You are loud. So it's an African thing. Unfortunately, we have moved it into governance. So we carry our behaviors, our character into governance, into any position that we find ourselves. And the way the society is, which is, if you're someone who's well-to-do, if you're someone who is, you have a big position, you have, probably you have been elected to be in a big position, in a leadership position, and you have a lot of people who know you, it will be unfair or unheard of that something happens to you and everybody does not show up. So it's how we do our thing. And I would like us to, take a leaf from what the Western world is doing. And that has to go deep into changing our orientation and trying to be modest. But I really do not know how we can survive being modest because it's really not who we are.
Interesting.
Yeah. So for me, this way of life is not foreign to me. I think from where I come from, people like that, from where I come from, people are quite modest in everything. In weddings, in funerals, but with the increased influence of the Southwest and how, Yoruba people carry themselves with lots of flair and as BC has used the word flamboyant. So it's just, people are picking up on that, but traditionally most people up north are not as flamboyant as most in the Southwest. But also when we refer to the Western world, for them, too, it's a culture that has evolved over time. If you were to go down through history, you would hear about their very crude ways as well. And the reason I bring this up is that many times we sit on the, when we argue on the part, oh, this is our culture and this is our way of life. But the truth is that culture will evolve. People will improve. Civilization will be introduced. There used to be a time, many places in Nigeria, people still wore leaves, But after a while, we wear clothes, we wear shoes. Now, in fact, if you don't wear clothes, they will insult you. So this is something I find I admire a lot. I love modesty in the way you carry yourself, in the way you speak. So for me, personally, I would advise that we look towards that. Secondly, concerning COVID regulations, it's important to do it this way because it's about our health, about protecting our health and our people. And it has been quite disgraceful and embarrassing, honestly, to see some of the way we've carried ourselves when we have done the funeral services or anything, since during this COVID period. We just throw everything out because you're a political leader, you're a big man or a big woman, and it's not right. So now you can say that there's an example of how to do it if you were unaware of how to do it before.
So the issue of leading by example comes to bear because our leaders tell us, oh, have the capacity of this. I mean, now things have been relaxed because obviously the numbers, according to the governor, the rates, I think, has come to about 1 or 2% of those who are positive of COVID-19. So we understand things are being relaxed. But I'm talking about when we're in the heat of phase 2 or phase 1 of this COVID-19, where people have died, and our leaders don't lead by example. They didn't show us how it should be done. Yeah. So you come and arrest the commoners, but yet when you have your own events, you have the space to bring in as many people, and there's no strict adherence to these laws. Nima, what are your initial thoughts on this funeral, and what do you think we can learn, if we can learn anything at all?
Particularly, I have practiced this method. So I remember when my father passed and I was saying, you don't have to come visit. You can just make a call and it'll be fine. It was just to reduce the crowd because I'm from a very large family, noisy, loud, and I never really enjoyed it. I think that growing up, it was supposed to be the way I saw my parents project it, about support. But it now became sort of an abuse at some point of, of the space and everything. I think Africans, we must go back to how we really, really started. It was communal. You were there in time of need as well as in time of giving. You are not supposed to be there only when it suits you. So I remember growing up and then all of a sudden I'm getting married and the house must be full because she's a graduate. Oh, she studied law and that's why we are related. There's supposed to be a reason why I must know you as my aunt. I must, you know, you must be there. I have an aunt that was there all my life, and I always never forget it. And that's how family is supposed to be. But somebody will just show up and say, you know me, I'm the eldest, I'm the first male, I'm the first female. I have these cultures across the south side. And, you know, there is the first the female, what do you people call your own? Ada? We have all those things. You have the and all of that. All these people, where were they? You know, when a child is falling, that's when they're supposed to be there, when the head of the child is bending, and they're doing the right thing, and they're supposed to be people who are extremely objective in their thoughts and are able to put balanced judgments in front at all times. And so that you value that relationship, and when they want to come and attend somebody's burial at all costs, demanding that right, you'll be forced to respect it, not when they're coming, and it's a lot of burden. At weddings, it is when you hear Sako people say, oh, your term. It's not as you people do in Yoruba. When you're about to chop that base of your party, they'll tell you, if you're not rich, why you invite people? You know? Whereas, usually, the Yoruba people, when you have a family meeting, this one is bringing cow, leg, this, that. But when it's your own, you hear, oh, your term, that means you rich. And you gather us. So you break your account.
So we've talked about the party, having the party, but there's a crucial part of this conversation which we've not touched on. The Prime Minister himself didn't show up.
Yes.
Such an important person. So we'll talk about that because of we're talking about the stature of the person in question. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. You can join the conversation on 081-270-53687, also on 091-390-76948. You can tweet to us at TVC Connect. Please hashtag YourViewTVC so we can read your tweets. So we've talked about family obligations, people coming together, how we can find a way to caution ourselves. But in a situation whereby state dignitaries feel they must attend because he was my political godfather. He was the one that was there when I had nothing. You know, so my question is culture playing in this? Should we understand that this is who we are? And we shouldn't try to borrow a leaf or learn from them because who does Prince Philip? How many family members does he really have? Who are the community people that put him there? So, I mean, of course, he's a real prince. I know both his father and mother are from the royal family. But the point is, many people had reasons to be there, but chose not to be in the interest of COVID-19 principles that was laid down. But we don't adhere to that in this part of the world.
Well, because for us, a lot of the times, the way we show love is to be dramatic about it. The way to show respect is carry me. Yes. It's my birthday. I do not put my picture on your social media. Even though I had called you in the morning to tell you happy birthday and pray for you, but you did not put me in front of the world can see. Or someone calls you, my birthday is coming up. You must shout it out on your view so that people will know I have people. And then you put it on your social media. Because for that person, it is how you show love. And I feel that we need to look at things differently going forward. You know, concerning COVID-19, it's important that we look at it differently because that's our health we're talking about. It's lives we're speaking about. But even going forward, that we should learn to appreciate honest and, you know, sincere relationships. It's not about who speaks the loudest about you, who makes the loudest noise, but about the actions that the person carries out. Also, secondly, with funerals, especially in Nigeria, we talk about how many people are shown more love, more people gather over them when they are being buried than during their lifetime. We have people who say, oh, this man, we didn't even know he had many people like this. So he had children like this that live abroad. And here they are now, you know, the casket is more expensive than the house he ever lived in. You know, monies are spent on the outfit that they have to wear because for our culture, it's mostly about showing the other side. You see how better off we are than you are.
We can't discountenance that. So that's an important part of it too.
No, it's not an important part of it. It's the least important part of it.
But there's a part of that is that you're showing that I have raised my children well, and you come now.
Good. The way to show that you have raised your children well is when you are alive, the children come and visit you. They pay for whatever needs that you have. You're not living under a leaking roof, and you have children living abroad in different kinds of places doing amazing things. But because you are not dead yet, people don't show up for you. That is how to show. And we should actually teach that specifically for our children that are growing up. Show them what is more important is while the person is alive, be functional in your love, be there, be available.
I'll come to you, Nima. Mike, are you there from Paris? Mike? Mike? Okay, we're having a bit of fun. Yes, Nima.
This is about political affiliates. He's my godfather, my whatever, he's my mentor, my everything. So you want to let the world know you're associated with family. When Governor Ajimobi died, there was this small wahala around him at the time. Is he Ajimobi? Okay, yeah, I say Ajimobi. And there was a lot of drama around the burial. Even the interment, everything was almost taken away from family. I believe that burials, family own burials, and I mean the direct descendants of the disease. Every other person doesn't matter, and whatever they think really doesn't matter. That's the way I see it. I think that what the royal family have exemplified here is say, whether you're linked or not, mind your business. Let us mourn peacefully. Let us mourn, honor our own the way we want. Because this is the person who the deceased probably wanted around him at the time he was giving up. He did not want a crowd of people around him. And at the time of burial, when we now do an abakari kind of thing, the family themselves will just continue to grieve that they never really took part. There's an Islamic part of burial that, still I feel hot about it. Because when my father was laid to rest, I was outside because as a woman, it was only my brother who could do that. I wanted to escort up to that. And so, you can only understand how family members would have loved to be there. Some people will cry, yes, they would mourn, but let them have their day. Don't crowd it and cloud people with all your
Shala, are you there? Thanks for calling. Yes, you're live. Go ahead, please.
Okay, I just wanted to contribute. Because this topic is very, very interesting. Because my mom passed away in December in the heat of COVID. So my eldest sister decided that, we're just going to have a very quiet funeral. It was actually just a great time funeral, nothing fancy. We were happy. Told us whoever can come should come. Wasn't so much to take care of mommy. She lived a very good life. And so I was surprised, some people kept saying, did our mommy offend us? Did our mom offend them that they had a quiet funeral for her? Did we go out, jamboree and do all the unnecessary activities? So I think it's a cultural thing that needs to be reviewed.
Thank you very much, Shola, because I want us to talk about the culture part, because the truth is that without COVID, they would have had a fanfare.
No,
somewhat. They would have had somewhat, maybe not a fanfare like ours, but they would have had people. But the issue is respecting the COVID. Okay. So what are your thoughts on this?
Okay, so I know that we naturally aren't the sort of people that obey rules. We always feel some people are more special than others. The leaders feel they are more special than the people. So they make the rules and they do not obey the rules. So if it's a regular person who flouts the COVID-19 rules, you see that they will lock up the place, they will scatter the thing and all of that. But if it's a government official or someone who's important in the society who has clout, you see that they find a way to excuse it. And sometimes they don't even make any apology or any explanation on what why they have done what they've done. So because of that, we need to work on, making the rule above us. So the rule of law needs to be upheld. And like Mariam said initially, that culture evolves. And it's very important that we begin to take out those things that do not serve us culturally. So if you see that as we are growing and as we are evolving, that not paying attention to rules, not obeying rules, not being punctual, we have a problem of African time. We have, we have created our own clock as Africans that say, this is African time. So you have an event, you invite someone for 10, the person shows up at 4 p.m. or 3 p.m. and says it's African time because the person is not expecting you to be ready. You that you are making that invite, you are not expecting the person to be there. So we need, those are some of the things that we need because whatever we are, however we behave is what we take to the leadership positions.
I love
so
what you
as
said.
Children, as a parents, we need to start inculcating. I have a PA recently, so we were supposed to be somewhere for a meeting, and I gave her 12. And she didn't show up for 12, and I left her and went there. And when she called me, I'm home, or where are we? I said, I have gone. I don't want to see you till tomorrow. And when she came back, she was explaining. I said, we need to start, paying attention to they seem little, but it's what is going to stand us out.
Let me take this call from Ogunle. He's been holding for a while. Ogunle, are you there? Hello, Ogunle, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
You're live. Go ahead, please.
Good morning.
Morning.
It's been 6 years I've been trying to get to you.
So your first time
This is my first time
Welcome to
in
the
6
show.
years.
Welcome to the show.
Yeah. You're talking about culture. When you look, I'm very sorry what I'm about to say. Maybe it may bring some kind of effect. Talking about culture, when you look at the two ladies sitting between you and Nima, you can see that everything about us is no longer about Africa. It's about all in the name of Western world system of doing things. Okay. Our culture has been thrown away for years. We've been trying to copy the white people, and we are not even doing things the way they have been doing. I don't know, maybe because Nima is dressed because of religion or something. I'm very sorry, the two of you now, if you look at your eyebrow now, they are quite different from what we have. So if you want to talk about culture, we really need to go to our forefathers and foreparents, how they've been dressed. And in Europe, the lady that just called from United Kingdom, I think, Morayo, you know well about Europe, and you know how we do things here.
Hello? We wanted to finish Mrs. Agule. I'm so sorry about that. I really, really wanted to hear you.
Yes, because I don't understand the point he was making. So the point is he making that the Western culture of following the COVID-19 guidelines and having only 30 people there, and the Prime Minister respecting the guidelines and not showing up, is somewhat reflected in our eyebrows. So in the way that we do our makeup and the way that we dress.
We have to run, unfortunately. We have to run on this.
But I was going to finish it.
Please. Okay.
Let me just finish it.
Go ahead.
So in making a case for the way that the funeral was done, I just wish he finished, because I was hoping he was going to say, well, I would have preferred the flamboyance, the dancing, the whatever. And so in that way, Miriam and BC's dressing and whatever would be much more traditional in that form. It just seems to be contradicting.
All right. Yeah, may I quickly say that, when a lot of people watched it, they came up with the fact that they noticed that it was very organized. It was so structured. There was no form of confusion. There was no form of struggling of positions, who stays here and who stays where. There's something I realized that these sort of people do, like the royals. They do what they call dress rehearsals. So before that day, they would have practiced how you just walk in, where you're going to sit, the position you're going to take, so that on the day of the event, everything is done with specificity. So I think we still need to adjust ourselves in such a way that we work with excellence. So aside from the fact that we love plenty people in our culture, because we need to keep the rules, because we need to obey COVID-19 principles, we can cut down on that. When COVID finally disappears, everybody can go ahead. Now, I also wanted to mention that Nigerians, Africans, Nigerians, we're not very time conscious. So you have an event like that and you spend the whole day not considering that other people need to go make a living or do something. We need to, our time is money. So if we can monetize our time, you see that you won't want to be there for more than 45, 50 minutes. And it's done.
I didn't want to say this, but I had my brother's wedding in the US. His wife attends a Presbyterian church, and they had a dress rehearsal.
They always
many
do.
years ago.
Yeah.
And with myself and my mom were like, it wasn't a dress rehearsal.
Yeah, that's it.
That church. But you're right. It's
but there are
just
things that we also do here to try to curb it, but we just don't listen.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
But this is something earlier that I thought was interesting.
Okay.
When you plan an event, you that you are planning, you don't expect them to come early. You that you are going there, you don't expect them to start early.
Yeah.
You that expect them to be late. So we're all just a bunch of mad people.
I did say that.
I did say that too. Let's go on the break so we can come back.
There's something called fashionably
We'll be
late.
back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. So we're supposed to move into our next topic, but I'm told that our guest is yet to be here. And because of that, we'll allow for some time to take a few tweets on the previous topic. So, Miriam, do you have a few tweets for us, please?
Yes, I do. Andrew in Streatham says, yet the nation where the funeral was totally observed per square meter has very few churches and mosques. But in Nigeria, where per square mile there are 1,000 churches and mosques, everything is disorganized and people play African time. He says, true, one of the most depressing phenomena prevalent in this part of the world is letting someone die in penury and spending a fortune on their funeral. Andrew in Streatham also says, see how big people observe COVID-19 in Britain. See how the Queen insisted on observing strict COVID-19 protocols.
Okay, let me reply to this one. Hayode Jimoloto says, it started from our ancestors' cultural diversity. Will always have effect in our different lives, and it's telling on our government to oppression is still our lifestyle. I totally do not agree, even with the last caller, that this was an African culture thing, because we're talking about royals here. If we talk about royals and how royals are buried in certain climes, till tomorrow, we hear say King died for Benin. We not hear. Nobody has ever seen how the burial is done.
You know, if you come out, go.
They will tell you, for this period, 21 days or so, all markets shut. It's only the inner caucus that bury. So we should apply it to families. If the person has wife, children, and let them be involved in the burial, which is what the Queen did. Till the grandchild, and someone tweeted that the Prime Minister had to leave his own invitation for a close family member who also wanted to attend, and so that's why he didn't show up. And we should also understand, how important it is for families to benefit from, their last respect. You can also play your respect, even if you're not, if you're as a friend of the family. From afar.
Right.
By, reaching out to family, asking what they need. There's a culture of Islam that people don't know. Because I hear that 40-day Fida prayer, 30-day Fida prayer. We attending the burials for the prayers are the ones bringing assistance to families. That's the culture of the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. But I did not hear it when I was growing up, because without prayer, the family will go and borrow. They were supposed to make their gele on point. It was supposed to be you bringing whatever is needed to support. Because there's an institute I'm using, for this place. It's called For Those Left Behind. That's for those who are mourning. And in the classes, in the Islamic classes, and I heard this person say, well, the way my father used to talk about it wasn't this loud. They should loud it very well, so people will understand it.
Let me take this call from Prince Ade. Are you there? Hello?
Hello?
Prince Ade, you're live.
Hello,
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, how are you guys?
Very well.
This is my first time of trying, and this
Welcome to the show.
getting through, and I'm so lucky.
Yes.
Lucky.
Yeah, the lesson is that with the Nigerian diaspora, especially African diaspora, the Nigeria most especially, they didn't learn from Queen. She's been with her husband since all these days. She's been an husband so many years. They are not learning from her. That's a big lesson to me. And the initial stage of their work is not that smooth, but the Queen can manage everything. For Nigerian diaspora, they will be sending their husband, they say, not copy the Queen, because the system benefits them, that anybody that system pays benefit to them, what they are gaining, they don't think about the family, the real family that they supposed to take as a role model. That they have been together for so many years.
That's a different topic. Thank you very much for that.
Role models in a lot of
role models. But you see, also, if we want to go into that story, because the truth is, it was more like the prince. The prince was the one that actually stayed with the queen.
Yes.
Now, how many African men can be a husband to a queen? Has the spotlight, takes the decisions, has to make
has
some
to
tough,
lead their family.
has to lead, and sometimes the husband had to bow to the queen.
Good, Maria, put it in Nigerian context. The queen is the head of that family.
Of the family.
Of the
So he was like
So
the
you are saying,
of the whole kingdom.
He was
you are
like the
saying we
wife.
should learn. Let us look. So
Since we are learning.
Prince Ade, let us talk about learning
Yeah.
now. So let's move from
How
burial.
many men are read
How many of you Nigerian or African men can allow a woman, because I saw
the
one
head.
of the series, The Crown, where the Prince of Edinburgh had to actually bow to the Queen because that was the position. He wasn't bowing to his wife at the time. How many of you can do that?
And still get
I think you're learning. So you're now stupid that we should learn that she stayed with her husband for over 70 years. No, he stayed with her.
He made a lot of
They
sacrifices.
stay
I read
together.
about how the staff of the Queen would, discriminate about him, that maybe you be our Oga, we know within the royal family. And it's only a few men who will take it. Yes. Some people will take it out on their wives and say, it's you that brought me this rubbish. Yes. It is because of you. And African men, we can vote 99% African men will not take it.
He lost his career.
Yes.
He also lost his name because the time he was going to go to his own house, he lost his name because now the children were not given his name anymore. So he forfeited his citizenship,
his identity.
So he had to make quite a bit of sacrifices. How many African men can do? Let us start beginning to learn lessons now. Let us learn. Let us start learning.
I can remember my cousins. My mom is from Royal in my village, and my cousin was marrying a Yoruba girl. They said we should dobale. My cousin went to the girl, whispered, "I'm Royal." Benin people who don't, princes don't dobale. The one of my aunts just stand up. I cannot take it. Oh my dobale. The next thing, once everybody did a U-turn, enter their car. So you marry your daughter. They start begging us to come back. African men,
let me take this call. Good morning, are you there?
Come in, bow, bow.
Hello. Good morning, I have a call from me. Godmo, are you there? Thanks for calling. Sorry about that. Okay, so BC, you have anything to add to this?
Yeah, I just think
these lessons we're learning.
we're not. Our Nigerian men are not ready for that sort of lesson where they have to bow to their wives. Though I have seen some men who don't mind. If they love you, they can go all the way, you know. But they're still waking up. There's no. Aside from that, they have seen men who stand and say, this is what I want, and this I'm going to do it, and there's nothing any family member can do about it. But we have not woken up to that level, and they should not rush us by telling us, learn this and learn that and learn that. What we are talking about today is how we can apply this in governance and leadership, and let it in public places, and let it cut across, so that even as we are raising our children, we can begin to take those cultures that serve us, that save us time, that save us money, that save us resources, those cultures that will help us grow even faster in our total development. That's what we're talking of.
So
don't
emphasize cultures that serve.
That serve us.
Cultures that part of cultures that serve. That is good for the entire humanity at the end of the day. Traditions that is good for the greater good. There are certain traditions that by now we should have forgotten about them, and we know.
We still practice.
So let me come to Twitter. I have a call from the UK. Good morning. Are you there?
Hello. Yeah.
You're live. Go ahead, please.
Okay. Good morning,
Morning.
Marion, and the rest of the girls. Or ladies, rather. Yes, I think the central thing we seem not to understand and discuss on the program is that the Prime Minister would have been invited, but he wasn't invited. It was all down to the COVID rules and protocols that we observe in this country. It's about law, respecting the law. The fact that we have COVID, the royal family then decided, how can we manage this situation? It should be right down to the family, regardless of who you are and what you are in the society. That is the situation here. In Nigeria, there is no law. No one respects, even if there is a law. I think we should learn from what is happening here, that it's about law. It's not just about the celebration of the situation. It's about respecting the law.
Thank you very much. I think that's what we want to extract from this whole thing.
And you know, recently we've been having conversations on how sometimes who the leader is. The leader started as just a regular person like you and I. So the way that we behave with each other at the grassroots level is what we'll take, you know, when we become leaders. So we do not even respect each other one-on-one. What do you expect when you become a leader? You just take that behavior out there. We have a few tweets, and I think that we'll enjoy here. So, sorry, I missed this.
Sorry, before you get it, there's a part of the psychophants and the wailers. Family have already prioritized family. There was a politician, let me just cover because it's a Lagos-based story, that died. And the family and the children knew what exactly they wanted. But the wailers, they stayed outside, abused COVID, joined their heads together, spread the COVID very well, just crying for camera to carry them. Who sent you?
They paid some of them.
They were not part of the burial plans. Nobody allowed them into they made sure that they exposed themselves. So we ourselves, we should even try to love ourselves.
And tell yourself that permits
a few truths. No, apart from our these people
did
some
people are paid to wail.
I was going to say prioritizing. I know the cultures.
There are some people who are paid
prioritizing
to chief mourners.
family. But some people who have prioritized family, they've drawn the list. They know who their father's associates are. They know who their person's friends and family are. And they have said, okay, this is how much hall we take. But some people will say, okay, just leave us outside.
Yeah.
You know, and they will bring their food and everything.
Okay, so the tweets, this DRL says, it's very sad that we put ourselves under pressure to bury the dead in Nigeria. The wastage is not necessary. This is not about people who attend the burial now, but the money being pumped into the event. We need to scrap some of these things. I've discovered, Habib Okweyemi says, I've discovered that one of the clogs in our wheel of progress in this part of the world is our culture. Culture drives behavior, behavior drives habits, and habits create the future.
Rolake says we are wasteful in our cultural events and not flamboyant. We spend more than what we have impressing others. That is why we keep unused souvenirs for years and still acquire more at events. We attend all events because we are sycophants.
Yes. let me take this call from Abuja. Kandi, are you there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
You're live. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, Mariah, good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Nima, happy Ramadan.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. In fact, I want to talk about the issue concerning the Queen and the King.
Go ahead. We can hear you very clearly.
Okay. You know, there's a difference between being in Nigeria and being in the UK. Because I listened to you and I saw that the way you are trying to compare the UK and the Nigeria. We all know the man is the head of the family here in Africa. So if we start to compare that, no, we should not compare the king, this is that, is that. To me, I will not lie to you, we are trying to teach our children another thing. You understand? So we should at least, let's nail it where it is. Because I will not lie to you, I always watch your program before I go to my office because I love it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Let me use an example, and I don't have permission to say this, so I won't mention the person's name but I know the story. He's a professor. He died not too long ago. Before he died, he set up a committee. Who's going to handle his burial? He put together. He gave everybody a role. So Nima, you're the treasurer. Your job is to do the planning. You're supposed to do the clothes. He allocated the roles per person. Told them the casket to use. I said, go and ask XYZ wife, I like the casket he used for her husband. Please, that's the same one I want you to use. Wow. Affordable. He told them where to bury him. He told them how much the budget should be, who should be there, and who doesn't need to be there. They had a very concise burial, very dignified. This is a professor, somebody that is well respected. And I was so proud to even know one of the people that were there because eventually it was very, very intimate. And it was a burial that made sense.
You got the word,
the point is, burials are great, but let us begin to redefine what they're supposed to mean going forward. It's not a jamboree.
Let me take this tweet so that we'll get this topic out. Why people gather at that's Miss Chi. She's saying that why people gather more at funeral is to pay last respect. If one is still alive, if you don't visit today, you can visit 2, 4, 5 years time. But at death is final. And that's a given. I must not associate with your development to be there. So he's trying to talk to me about the people who must also show up and always, be like that. So who are the people who respected the dead while he was alive? I have a personal sentiment. I have a personal experience that I'd hate to, talk about. So I'm just sitting and waiting. Let me just see you on that day. I'm waiting for this particular person, and God saved them, they didn't show up. I would have made sure the door was banned in their faces. Because it was important that when that person is alive, for the level of good he did to you, when he was alive, that you honored him. So it's good that they just continue the disrespect. Because some disrespect should just continue after death. Just kukuma continue your life.
Let me take this call from Florida. Calvin, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. How you
You're
doing?
live. Go ahead, please.
Today? Yeah, about what you guys are talking, you ladies are talking about. Like, I have a friend in Florida. He called me one on the Saturday and said, "Oh, my dad just died." And I said, "Oh, I never knew you had a dad." He said, "Yes, man, we have to kill 8 cows and everything." I'm like, "Oh, wow." So he went to Nigeria. Fast forward, he came back. And like, that was the wedding. Oh, we spent almost $40,000. I like, for a freaking for a burial. I said, "For a burial?" He said, "Yes." Now he's totally broke. He started asking people for money. I said, "Then why did you spend all this money to go to Nigeria to bury your father? And now you're back here begging people for money." It doesn't make sense. He said, don't you know my dad is 80 years old? He's well known in the village. The village people know him. I said, I don't care. No disrespect to your father. Let him rest. May his soul rest in peace.
Amen.
So you don't need to spend almost $50,000 just to bury your father for people to eat and everything. It doesn't make sense. And now you're begging people you want to pay your rent.
Can you imagine?
So it doesn't make sense for real.
It doesn't. Let me take Professor Enakena's tweet. He says, burial back home is part of our Neanderthal behavior, and we've refused to expunge from our society. When I saw my mom's burial in 2018, my mom's burial video in 2018, because I couldn't travel for health reasons, I was astounded at the crowd and resources expended by my siblings. And this person, Enakena, is probably from my place. So there's a way they do the burial. Some people will even cook. They will put a pot of soup today. Now, they cook egusi. They will be pounding here. And the guests are sitting. But the soup done, and it's an empty pot. Because people cooking are just piling on. Then the next day, according to my mom at one of the burials they did, the next day, because pounded yam, we don't eat it the next day in my place. So they will just be bringing out the pounded yam that they are even siphoned inside and be pouring it out. So it's such a waste. We ourselves, we need to curb certain of our own behaviors around this burial. Let me punish the children of the dead. Let them spend the money. Some people, there's a culture of where they will call the daughter-in-law, for instance, say, hey, we heard that you had one fight in like 20-something with your mother-in-law, Nida. How did you do? This and that. Somebody that is among the family that is living that hates you will now come say, the matter was not resolved. Very proud somebody. You will be punished.
You know, this reminds me of
things like that. So if it's not serving.
People, we need to avoid playing to the gallery. So everybody wants to do it because this family has done it, and I want to show that I am successful. And then you bring all your colleagues all the way from Lagos to the village. You borrow money, you know, from different people. And after the burial, you are left to sort out yourself. Now, the families that do this burial, it's also important that we as people around them support them so that they don't get into debt. And one of the ways you do not get into debt is don't make a plan with the resources you don't have. You look at your pocket, you only have 500,000 and you have a burial to do. Why don't you use 100K and buy the cheap, what's it called?
You're not addressing what that caller said. They will say, how do you hate your parents so much? What did your mother do to you to deserve this kind of burial? So you want to work within your pocket. But the community and family are saying that you are being wicked.
That's what I started with. So you need to learn to be your own person and not pay attention to what people will say. Because people will always say, even if you use the whole 500 pounds,
that's why the other is very our mother. And
I don't care.
She paid caskets.
I can only care when I listen to you and let it affect me.
But I just remember this.
I work with what I have and what I can afford. So if we learn in our own little corner to work with what we have, and irrespective of whatever anybody wants to say, it doesn't concern you. Why would I want to care?
So it just reminded me of this conversation we had on the show some years ago, where a spokesperson for a state government was saying that the governor had used the security fund to pay for burials. You remember? Yes. I can't remember. Yes, that they used that security fund to pay for burials.
Yes.
So there are staff that have worked, they take money, they buy caskets and things like that. And, you know, he was so proud of it and quite confident about it. I was like, who was going to do that?
1 million.
Meanwhile, this is monies that has been set aside for something else. For security.
Let me pause you for a second, Miriam. I have a call from Semi at Niger State. Are you there?
Yes.
You're live. Go ahead, please.
Actually, this is the first time I'm getting through this.
Welcome to the show.
Welcome to the show.
Sister Morayo, God bless you.
Amen.
And every other person seated there. You see, when you talk about the coming together of people, when you talk about coming together of people in a ceremony, we should first look at the government aspect. You know, these days people are hungry. People, you know, people look at opportunities to come to a program, even without inviting them. I think I had a program at Ibadan just recently, a few months ago, and without even inviting people, people are coming. Where are they coming from? Who invited them? At the end of the day, we discover it was an hunger. People are hungry. Just give us food. You don't need to invite them. They wear their clothes, look good, as if it's real. They come to your occasion just to feed and go. So we should start looking at this aspect. What can we do to stop this kind of attitude. You know,
Thank you.
I am the senior special assistant to Niger State Governor on entrepreneurship. And even before my principal, you know, appoints me to that position, I'm privileged to empower people in a little way I feel. But there is no more sensitization, my sisters. There's no more motivation, my sisters. So all this is accumulates to all this kind of useless attitude.
Thank you, Samia. Thank you so much, Samia, because I remember when my father died. That first day, we all cried. There was pain, you know, and aunties came, people came, gathered around us. By the next day, they were already telling my mom to give them money to go and start buying rice and this, because people are coming to visit. Cooking. You have to buy water in the house. You have to buy drinks. You have to cook. Because the people will come every day. So we had to now decide the date of the burial. He died in October. We buried him, I think, in November. Between that October 1st and November that we buried him, every single day we're cooking.
You have to feed people.
Feeding people. You can't put it, even if you don't cook rice, biscuit and drink must live together.
Which is supposed to be the other way around, that when guests come, they come with food.
So we're interrogating this culture.
Yeah.
Should we sustain it? Or should we begin to say, you know what, guys, it's not...
The person who is already mourning has to now run into debt.
Yes.
Because people must show up.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we have to wrap up on this, but I think we extended this conversation because our guest for the other topic, we're going to discuss about the minister, Honorable Minister, who Issa Pantami, he's trending. So that was what our conversation was supposed to be about. Unfortunately, we had a guest. I'm not sure if we can get the guest, but we'll try to get him now so we can move on to that topic. But we have to wrap up on this. Generally, we're still going to bring it up some time, but the idea is that let us begin to discuss amongst ourselves if we want, if it's a culture we want to change or continue, and we feel that it's not serving us well, let's modify it. Yes, we understand we're people, we are cultural people. We like to have family around, but should we begin to understand that, listen, don't put pressure on each other. Oh, so her father had died and all they did was just
like my sister
he's not.
They will tell you the way once your person passes, they will tell you.
Yes.
I was told 3 days, 4 days. What are we doing? My sisters even at some point they bent over, they started spending, and they will call. I said, you people should just do it.
That's all we can take on this. That's going to break. When we come back, hopefully our guests will be here. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. So close to 1 week now, there has been allegations and counter-allegations concerning the past comments and ministrations made by the Honorable Minister of Communication and Digital Economy, Sheikh Ali Issa Pantami. The renowned Islamic cleric turned minister in the time past made comments that seemed to be sympathetic to the plight of terrorist groups like Boko Haram and Al-Qaeda, which many Nigerians are now calling for his resignation. Now, we're supposed to have with us the hashtag Pantami now, hashtag resign now. Person who started as David Hudain and one of the leaders of all the, who have actually been pushing for his resignation. But David Hudain was supposed to join us this morning. Unfortunately, we've been trying to reach him via Zoom, via call. All his numbers are just not going through. We can hear him tweet, but unfortunately, we can't reach him. We'd really like to speak to him because he started this conversation. And I think he dug out.
We can see him tweet.
He dug out.
We cannot hear him.
We can hear. We are seeing him tweet.
We are seeing him tweet.
Well, we cannot hear him. So, but whilst we're trying to get the connection with him, we'd like to hear your thoughts on this because many have said that, listen, this is from the past. I mean, we all make mistakes. We all say things we did not mean. We all turn a new leaf at some point in our lives. So why are we now condemning this man for what happened in his past? And is it wrong for somebody to say, listen, I'm sorry, that was in the past. Must we bring it to the fore? And how important is it for us to review what he's saying again? Nima would like to start.
As for me, true, people make mistakes in the past and they do change, yes. But the sensitivity of this, and he wasn't talking about Boko Haram at the time. Boko Haram had not started. He was talking about the Taliban and Al-Qaeda, and there are sentiments across boards for Al-Qaeda and Taliban across, and how the U.S. dealt with it. There was self-interest protected by the U.S. that was not the world's interest at the time, destabilizing other people's countries and all of that. Well, true. But for me, this goes to the issue of, for me here, there were sympathetic elites in the north that encouraged the growth of Boko Haram, and it's a fact. And if we find any reason to want to, call a leader out in the north who is among the elite today, I think the person owes us more to answer than just, I have always spoken. I have Christians and everybody in my cabinet or in my work staff, that constitute my staff, and I've always, it's beyond that. I think there's more that he should, show us, because I was at a time, Ali Ndume Senator Ali Ndume was, fingered out at one time saying he was responsible because he said he knew where Boko Haram was and how they were disturbing his constituency in Borno. And he did more than just tell us, I'm not in support, to prove that he wasn't in support of what they did. He showed us how he was a victim. In fact, I always must commend Senator Ali Ndume for letting us know that Boko Haram was not just a religious
sect.
A religious insurgency at the time, because it was meant to seem like they were anti-Christians and not Muslims. It was because of Senator Ali Ndume's expose that I knew how much Muslims within Borno also suffered. So this was an insurgent, but we were coloring it with religion, and we're missing the point. Right. So for me, if his sympathies did not lie with Boko Haram, and there's that video, there's more that he has to do than what he's doing presently.
Mary, let me come to you.
First of all, for me, I'm saying these allegations are heavy allegations. And anyone who has been accused this way, if I were the person, I would do everything in my power to make sure that I clear my name. We sit down here every day talking about the insecurity. Boko Haram has taken different forms, different factions. We're talking of children being kidnapped. And a lot of this insecurity is alleged to have started because of some clerics in the way they have preached, in the words that they have used. Many people felt that some of the things that they said incited, this thing that has grown into the thing that's destroying us today. So if someone has been accused of doing something like that, I think that person should come out definitely and explain themselves. He has also said in some of the tweets that we have read, where he said many of the things he started preaching since he was 13, and that many of the things he preached about or talked about were things based on his perception at the time, his exposure, whatever, it happens. And I personally am not for cancel culture, where when people make mistakes in their past, we drag out their past and punish them for it today, even when they have shown promise, they have shown change. But because of the sensitivity of this matter, because of what it has caused, because of how this thing has morphed into such a dragon that is destroying us, I think that the only thing that the minister can do is to come out here and prove to people that he is not part of it. And then for those who are accusing him too, it's on them to give us facts and evidence of what he has done. Because when it comes out that he was not in any way affiliated with this group, there will be consequences. Right. It's important now that we talk about it, because social media is known to bring people, castigate them, try them, punish them, and then the perpetrators, and then it comes out that, oh no, we made a mistake. Because the reason I'm mentioning that is because the first sources that gave the information that he was on a watch list have deleted it, and they said that it's impossible for you to know who is on the terrorist watch list for the USA, because they never let it out. Right. So they have deleted it. Some of the newspapers that carried the initial story to have deleted it.
And apologized.
Yes, and apologized. So we need to understand, if this is true, then please show us the facts.
Let me come to BC on this. Your thoughts?
Yeah, so for me, I would like to know the agency that's responsible for vetting and doing background checks before somebody is appointed to a DSS. So I would expect that the DSS would have done a thorough check before giving, before the presidency appoints you into this sort of position. Because, the reason we sit here and we advise people to be very careful of what you put out there right now, because in a few years' time, when you have gotten serious about life, it could come back and bite you. This is just a case of what is happening. And if peradventure they had done a proper background check and they saw some of these things that they were not clear about, why didn't they make it known? Why didn't they present it? Why didn't we have an opportunity to say, okay, well, he said this so time, but his capacities, he'll be able to handle the job, or maybe he has changed. Now it's seeming like they found out he had a sort of sympathy towards Al-Qaeda and the other group, and he was still giving that position. Now, the position he's holding is a very sensitive one that has to do with the data of everybody in the country. We already have a problem of the military allegedly being compromised, where instead of them to go out, in the papers this morning I took that one informant had been arrested, and the army is going to investigate and prosecute and likely get more people who give information. So if you have such a sensitive position where you are dealing with the data of the people, how do we trust with what is out right now that the lives of Nigerians are not in danger?
Exactly.
So you need to, if you know, you have to pay attention to morals and all of that.
That's such an important part of this, because that's the crux of this conversation. But nobody's against you making mistakes in the past. But if you're holding such a sensitive position where we've all talked about the fact that we are unable to trace these terrorists for whatever reason. We're hearing from, is it Dubai or which country where they're tracing the funders. But within the country, we are not able to trace where the money is going. We can't find out we can't even trace the numbers of these people. So could this be one of the reasons? Because the person at the helms of affair might be compromised. So these are questions Nigerians are asking, that such a sensitive position should not be given to somebody who has such a history. Now, going back to the role of DSS, do they even screen anybody at all? Do they even let the presidency know? Do these people have information of who they bring into power to run certain positions? I'm not sure there is.
Yeah, for me, to bring the question of the sort of screening that we do, I know that we watch them on TV with the legislative, the National Assembly, and sometimes some of the questions I find quite ridiculous, but that there's no security screening of these people. And even if it was a point where I'm wondering if they had screened the appointees, it would fall on the table of the House of Assembly, and they would read through it, they would ask questions, and probably also because of that information, make further investigation. So for me, I'm thinking that maybe we do not actually do that form of screening for our appointees.
Or we do and ignore.
No, but I know they do, because the former EFCC boss, the screening they did for him, it was what eventually got him to
let me take this call. I'll come to you. Chakwa, are you there from Surulere? Oh, I'm so sorry we lost that call.
So for me, it's beyond... what I can't prove, I don't push further. So whether it's a chain man and he's at the helms of our affairs, and he's controlling or using, we can't prove. So I don't push further. But that you even had at one point in time such sentiments is scary. We're talking about loss of lives, people killing, people retaliating, killing. I remember when we were on the couch, when we were talking about, when the big guy from the north, the former ex-military general,
is it Danjuma?
Danjuma said, help yourselves, go out and defend. I kept saying, you cannot, allow people just resort to self-help, and we get to this kind of point. If you ever at one point justify such sentiment of just kill, or that people are... You must at all points, because he had always been a leader. At 13, if you can preach, you have been a leader. How about teaching people balanced thoughts? Asking, these lives that they're taking, is it allowed? I would have loved him, because it's also in the Quran that if you take a life, you take the whole, you take the whole of mankind life unjustly. If you take a life unjustly, I would have loved him to say, this is not fair. I would have loved to hear from him, the way I hear from Nuruddin Lemu, how it is important to respect the places of worship, all the synagogues, how in the Quran, it was the saying of the prophet. In his saying, if I hear it. Right. So this sort of, trying to make sense and play, allow victim be played is something that I think we should be careful about. The sympathies of the elites encourage the growth of Boko Haram up north.
Thank you very much.
The sympathies of the elites.
Let's move on to a gentleman from Yola. Aminu, are you there?
Yeah, Madam.
You're live. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, we should be very careful on what we are saying, what we are doing, and how we portray things in Nigeria. It's very, very important. We have to be very careful. Sheikh Pantami has never for once preach in English in Nigeria. He only preaches in Hausa. And I am sure, and I am absolutely sure, Mariam sitting down there cannot translate Hausa perfectly for anybody in the South to understand what exactly Sheikh Fontani was saying. And we are coming from a position that by around 2001, when America attacked Afghanistan, it was a divide between Muslims and the Crusades. That's what Bush said that time. So all Muslims at that time are on one angle of the wall, and the Christians were on the other angle. So we should be very careful of what we are dealing of. We should be very, very careful. We should be very mindful of the emotions that are running out in this country. We are trying to plunge this country into a situation that we cannot contain. We should be very careful, please.
So, hang it there. So, thank you very much, because I know Mariam did mention that when she heard it, for us, it wasn't as indicting as social media made it. So let's be fair. You're very correct. Let us speak with both sides. So Mariam, if you can just help us on that.
Yes. So there are actually many audio and videos that are out there, but the only one that I have listened to, and I think you shared, and I told you people, he was at a lecture, so it's public lecture, and he was explaining in that he was talking about the history of how the Taliban started, what their motives were, and where it finally ended up being. He also talked about he also made it important. He says, when you hear about a certain person or a certain sect, or you hear about the Taliban, you need to be sure, you need to also understand who is telling the story. So who owns the narrative? When America is talking about the Taliban, where are they coming from? Exactly. The Taliban is talking about themselves. Where are they talking from? So yes, he said all that. But I don't know if that's the only thing that he said, because people are going around and talking about many other videos and audio. So I don't know even which one that you're referring to at this time. But also, there's also a part of where he understood about, where he talked about the idols in the Southeast Asian countries, the countries that, you know, this seems to be quite rife. And he talked about the Taliban sort of bringing Islam to that place and taking away of those idols, which, you know, for many people who are Muslims, think is the right thing to do. And he showed his sympathy for them evangelically in that sort of way. So that's what I understood from the video that I saw.
To you, Nima.
But these accusations that are being leveled and talking about his involvement in some way, or his sympathy towards Boko Haram, Al-Qaeda, and Taliban, which is different from the video that audio that I heard. But
okay, let me now link that to our guest, because I'm told our guest is here now, because he practically started this conversation. Mr. David Hudenya, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Yay. Are you there? Finally, we can see you.
Thank you.
So, tell us exactly why you thought it was important to bring out this this conversation generally, that the whole, and the fact that some people are saying that what he said really wasn't really indicting, that social media just went crazy over what he was alleged to have said. Could you give us your own version?
Well, obviously, some people would say that because some people have been mobilized to say that. It doesn't mean what they're saying is true. I mean, if you have a functioning pair of eyes, which I believe we all do, and you actually read the articles, you read what was written, you listened to the audios, you read the translations, which, by the way, I didn't come up with. They're translated by native Hausa speakers and by an academic that specializes in contemporary Islamic studies. Her name is Andrea Brugaglia at the University of Cape Town Center for Contemporary Islam. So this wasn't something that came out of the Dane's head. This is established academic fact. Right. So I'm not sure where this idea is coming from, that what we all saw, we didn't really see it. And again, this reminds me of the same kind of media game that was played at the end of the NSAS protests, where all of a sudden there was this mass gaslighting effort to try and convince everyone that what we saw, we didn't really see it, and it didn't really happen. And I'm not really here to engage with any with that kind of reasoning. What I will say, though, is that going back to your first question, that why did I think it was important to engage with this issue? Why do you think it's important for somebody sitting in your federal cabinet, in your federal executive council, someone who has access to all of your most private personal data as a Nigerian citizen? Why do you think it's important for that person to not have links to the literal world of terror. Exactly. So I guess I've answered your question with a question. It's one of the most sensitive positions in the country. So I don't think it's expecting too much to expect that there must be at least some base level of ethical standards for the person who occupies that position. I don't think Nigeria has a shortage of qualified people to be in that position, qualified people who haven't been linked to terror and who haven't made those horrible statements that we all saw, but people who haven't come out to defend the honor of the Afghan Taliban, which, by the way, was one of the most brutal terrorist outfits ever conceived, David, even more so than Boko Haram.
Okay, let me get a few more questions.
David, like I said, the sentiments for or against the Taliban and the issues are political, so I don't want to join issues there. But I would like to ask you, the admission of the minister that, you know, these were said in my past and I'm a different person today is what I wanted to bring to. I mean, what do you make of that as, you know, as we move in the scheme of things now?
You agree with?
Well, that is, first of all, he did this thing where, and he always does this, by the way, where he tried to be cleverly disingenuous. He hinted that it had something to do with being a teenager. He said, I started preaching when I was 13, and I made some of those comments when I was a teenager. Well, the speech in question, Suwaye and Taliban, was made on September 12, 2006. Issa Pantami was born on October 20, 1972, which means that on September 12, 2006, Issa Pantami was 33 years and 11 months old. That's not a teenager. The person that is talking right now is 31 years old. So what exactly did he mean by he's a changed man and that was something in his past and blah, blah, blah? He was 33 years old. And by the way, 2006 wasn't that long ago.
Okay.
So he's lying through his teeth, as he regularly does. And then, as I analyzed in an article that I did yesterday, the idea that he doesn't act in those manners anymore, he doesn't do those things anymore, he's a different man now, it's clearly not true. I mean, I raised the example of the TV station, which has been given exclusive rights by the Federal Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy to broadcast official events organized by that ministry. It's not TVC. It's not, you know, a recognized mainstream TV station. It's an Islamic TV station that broadcasts Islamic-only content. It's not an Islamic-influenced TV station. It's an Islamic TV station. It's a religious TV station. It's like somebody going to contract Emmanuel TV by Pastor T.B. Joshua to come and start covering official federal government events. Where does that happen? What is the only reason that such a thing would happen? This TV station in question doesn't even have a functioning website, right? And to tell you how bad it is, I actually dug into who runs the TV station. It's not even a northerner or a Fulani person like Issa Pantami. The only thing that he has in common with this person is that this person is from the same religion. So that tells you everything you need to know about how Issa Pantami's mind works. Right? This is not a conspiracy theory. This is not a political narrative. These are simple facts, verifiable. You know, which I really don't have here.
Well, I think we might have to bring you back because we hope to have. Because of the connection issues, we couldn't bring you on early, so we have so many questions for you. We might have to have a second part of this because we need to continue this conversation. We've not even started scratching the surface at all, but unfortunately, I have to wrap up this time. Thank you, David, for joining us at short notice, but we'll definitely call you in the soonest to see if we can continue this conversation with you. Thank you very much, David. All right, that's all we can take on the show. See you tomorrow. Sorry about that. I didn't want to ask questions, but we ran out of time. We'll see you tomorrow. We might continue this tomorrow. We'll try to see what we can do. See you then. Bye-bye for now.